Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament. We're reading Luke's Gospel, chapter 22, and we're up to verse 24. So we've just finished with the institution of the Lord's Supper, which oddly enough doesn't appear in John's Gospel, but it is in Matthew and Mark, and referred to, of course, as I said, in 1 Corinthians by Paul. Egeneto de kai philonikia en autois, totis auton dokeanai medzon. This is a Lucan section here. It doesn't appear at this point in the other Gospels, and it's a slightly odd place to put it in some sense, that just after the Last Supper, where in other versions as well, Jesus is the one who acts as the servant there, and yet now they're disputing about greatness and who's the most important and so on. Anyway, egeneto de kai philonikia en autois, totis auton doke anai medzon. And it came to pass also that there was philonikia. This is a classical word. It's only here in the New Testament. It has the sense of contentiousness. There was an argument among them. Now we get this odd use of tot, which we've seen several times just in this particular chapter, in respect of who of them seemed to be medzon greater. Hode epen autois, hoi basileis ton ethnon, curi uusin auton, kai hoi exousiadzontes auton, euergetai kaluntai. So he said to them, the kings of the nations of the Gentiles, they act as master, they lord it over them, they rule them, they are their masters, and hoi exousiadzontes, those exercising power. We get exousia, authority, and this is the verb exousiasdo. Those of exerting power over them are called euergetai, which literally means benefactors. Now this presumably is a reference to several of the Ptolemies, the kings of Egypt. The Ptolemy III in particular called himself Ptolemy Euergetes, Ptolemy the benefactor of the country. Similarly, Ptolemy I think it's the 8th of Egypt, took a similar title, and so they are called euergetai, they are called benefactors. These were sort of extra names given to them as titles. Humes de hutos al homedzon en humin ginesto, hos honioteros kai hoi ogumenos hos hodiakonon. But you, not thus. So we have to understand, do not be thus, do not be like them. But the one who is greater among you, let him be like the younger, the neoteros. Well, the youngest generally had to perform the more menial tasks in antiquity, so let him be like the younger one, and the one who is leading, from hegemai, let him be like the one serving. This is a participle here from diakonio. Tiska medzon, for whoever is greater, ho anakamenos eto diakonon, the one who is greater, it's a question here. So for who is greater, the one reclining or the one serving? Surely, uki ho katakamenos, surely it is the one reclining. Ego de en mesohumon ami hos hodiakonon, but I am in the midst of you as the one diakonon participle, again serving, acting as servant from diakonio. This is, by the way, is not a compound. The verb is diakoneo, and they often misaugment this, but it's actually not a compound. It's not dia plus something. It's actually diakoneo is the where we get the word deacon, of course, comes into modern English. Humes de esti hoi dia memene kotes met emu entois parasmus moi. And you are the ones who are remaining, and the dia emphasizes this, remaining almost to the end with me in my temptations, or in my troubles, in my temptations, or perhaps testing might be better here. And of course plural for singular. Cargo diatithemai humin, kathos dietheta moi hopate mu basilean. We get this verb diatithemai twice here, meaning to appoint. So a cargo for kai ego, and I appoint you, that's taking a dative, just as my father appointed me over the basilean, over the kingdom. So perhaps you could take the basilean with both of these. So I appoint the kingdom to you. Diatithemai could mean to hand over. So I now hand over the kingdom to you, just as my father handed it to me. That's probably better, I think. So diatithemai has the sense of to hand over. Hina, in order that estheti kai pineti epites trapezdes mu ente basilea mu kai katheses the epithronontas dodecaphulas krinontes to Israel. In order that you might eat, from estheo. Now we've lost the iota here. It's normally estheo with an iota. Here we've got the present subjunctive here, and the estheo, the iota has disappeared. That can happen with this verb. In order that you might eat and you might drink at my table in my kingdom. Kai kathesis there, and you will sit on thrones, krinontes, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's a little Lucan section there. Now we go back to the bits that are common. This is also in Matthew, Mark and John, where Peter's denial is foretold. Simon, Simon, so this is Shimon, Shimon is his name. Simon, Simon. Idu hosanatas etzetete humas tu siniasai hos tositon. Behold, Satan asked for you. Now this verb is an interesting one here. It's siniasdo. It means to sift. A sinion is a sieve. It's a very rare word, and it's only here in Greek and in later ecclesiastical writings, but it's a very strange word here based on this sinion, a word for a sieve. So to sift you like flour, like to sit on, or wheat perhaps, to sift you like wheat. This is not a classical word. Ego de athane perisu hiname eklipe te hepistisu. For I made request, from deamai. This is it's a middle verb, but it goes into the passive form in the past tense. So I made request regarding you, that your faith might not eklipe, well, run out. It's like or fail. We get our word eclipse from this, by the way. So that your faith may not fail. Kai su poti epistrepsas sterison tu sadelphus su. But you, having turned pote at that time, strengthen, from stay rizdo, strengthen your brothers. Hode apen auto, and he said to him, Curie metasu toimos emi kaies phulakain, kaies thanaton paroesthai. And he, this is Peter, said to him, Lord, I am ready with you even for prison, to go even into the prison or even to death. So I am prepared, perhaps we might put in English. So I'm prepared to go with you both into prison and to death. Horiepen lego soi petre, Uphenesai semeron elector heos tris me ap anese adenai. And he said, this is Jesus said to Peter, I say to you, Petros, you will not, the elector, this is the rooster, will not make a sound, so will not crow, semeron today, heos, until you have denied to know me tris 3 times. This is from ap aneomai, to deny. So deny knowing me, we would say. It's actually an infinitive from oida. So denied knowing me 3 times. Interestingly, at the beginning he calls him by his Jewish name, and here he calls him by his Greek name. There's probably nothing much in that, but just an interesting observation there. Another Lucan passage here, it's not in the other Gospels, kai apen autois, and he said to them, Hote epistole humas ate belantiu kai peras kai hupedematon metinos husteresiti hoide epan uthenos. And he said to them, when I sent you, now we get this arter again, which we had in the earlier part of this chapter, which only occurs in Luke, and it's, as I mentioned before, it's a poetic word, meaning apart from or without, takes a genitive. You don't generally get this in prose, but you do in here. So I sent you out without. Balantiu is a that was a purse, and pera is a little bag that you put food into, and hupodematon and shoes. And there's a question here. When I did all that, we get a question expecting the answer no. Did you lack anything? This is from Husterio. Yeah, Husterio, to fall short. So did not lack anything. Hoido apen, and they said uthenos, nothing. An interesting example here of where the delta in Greek, which was slowly moving from a hard d sound to the softer th sound, which it has in modern Greek, and that change of sound you see sometimes in the written language. So this would have been udenos, but that's being now pronounced as uthenos, and they're starting to write a theta in place of the delta. So this is a genitive. So it's a genitive after verb of lacking. So after the tinos. Did you lack anything? No, we lack nothing. Apende autois, he said to them, Alanun ho ekon balantion arato, homoios kai peran, kai home ekon polesato, tohimation autu kai agorasato, makairon. But now, let the one who has a balantion, a purse, let him take it up. This is from Iro. This is the third person singular imperative. Likewise also a pera. This is a little food bag. And the one not having it, well, it is just the one not having perhaps any of these, let him sell, from polio, let him sell his garment and let him buy from Agorazdo a machiron. This is a little sword, a short sword, perhaps almost a dagger. Lego gahumin hotitutotogu gramenon de telesthenai en emoi to kai meta anomon elegiste. Kai ga toperi emu telos eke. For I say to you that it is necessary for this thing having been written to be fulfilled in me, literally. So for I say to you that it is necessary for this, the thing having been written, to be fulfilled in me, tot, we would say namely in English, that is, and he was reckoned among the lawless, among the, those who break the law. Kaiga and for this thing, this is the thing written about me, so this thing has an end regarding me. In other words, for this thing written about me now has its fulfillment. Hoide apen curia idoi makaroi hodi duo. And they said, Lord, behold, here are two swords, perhaps daggers, makarii, and he said to them, hikanon estin, that's sufficient, it is enough. It's a strange little pericope, that one that only appears in Luke. The next pericope is in both Matthew and Mark. This is on the prayer on the Mount of Olives. Kai exelthon eporuthe katato ethos as to horos ton elion. And having gone out, he went according to his custom. Ethos, we get the word ethos from that. So he went out according to his custom into the Mount of Olives. And we've read earlier that that's what he used to do in the evenings, where they used to sleep, in fact, on the Mount of Olives. Kolutheson, and they followed Autoi, Kai hoi mathetai, and his disciples also followed him. Genominos de epi tu topu apenartois pros eukes de me es elthane as perasmon, and having come to the place, he said to them, pray lest, or pray not, to enter into temptation or a test. Kai autos apespaste ap auton hose lithu bolen, kai thes ta gonata pros eucheto. And he himself, and this is from apospao, it's to draw off, so he was drawn off from them, so we might say he separated himself from them. Hos lithu bolein. Bolein is connected with ballo, to throw, so as if the throwing of a stone. So we would say a stone's throw. Although it's a common expression in English, this is the first time I think it appears in Greek language, the idea of a distance being measured by the throwing of a stone. So he himself drew away from them, be the way of translating that. So he drew himself away from them about a stone's throw, and we've seen this idiom before, thes tagonata, literally having placed the knees. So having fallen on his knees, he began to pray. Legon pater ebule pros enenke tutot topoterion ap emu, plain me tos thele mamu ala toson genesto. Saying, Father, if you wish, this is from Para and Pharaoh, so take this cup away from me. plan, but not your will, sorry, not my will, but yours, your will understood, let it be, let it be. So let it be not my will, but yours. Imperative from Ginemai. The next two verses are in these double square brackets here. They're apparently not in the best manuscripts. They're included in some, but not in others, but I'll go through them anyway. Ophthe de auto angelos ap uranu eniskuon auton. And an angel from heaven was seen by him, or perhaps appeared to him. They often use this is from Horao, they often use this aorist passive to mean to appear to rather than be seen by. It's probably much the same sense, but so either an angel was seen by him or appeared to him from heaven. En iskuon, strengthening him. Kai genominos in agonia ek tenesteron pros euketon. And literally having come into agonia, literally here, so being in agony, he prayed ek tenesteron, something like more earnestly. Ektano is to stretch, and it can also have obvious metaphorical sense. So more earnestly, well, that's about the best I can do with that, I think. So being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, with much more tension. Get the word tension from this. Kai ageneto ho idros autu hose thromboi, haimatos katabinontes epitan gain. And there was, hydros is sweat. So his sweat became hose-like thromboi. These are clots of blood dripping, or going down, I should say, descending onto the earth. We get words like thrombosis and so on from this, but it means just a clot. Thromboi, it's a medical term, again, keeping in mind Luke was reputedly a doctor, where he's getting this language from. So the his sweat became like drops of blood dripping, going down, or perhaps dripping down onto the earth. Kai anastas apotes prosukes elthon prostus mathetus hurin kekoi menus autus apotes lupes. And having gotten up from prayer, having come to the disciples, he found them sleeping. This is from koimao, to sleep. He found koites is a bed and so on. He found them sleeping, apotes lupes, from grief, or as a result of grief. And he said to them, kai epenatois, te kathudete. This is another word of sleeping. So Greek likes variations. There's no difference really between the two, koimao and kathudo. So why are you sleeping? Anastantes, standing up, prosukes, there, pray. So get up and pray. Hiname es elthati es parasmon, in order that you might not enter into the test or temptation, or perhaps the trial. And that's the next part of chapter 22.